We have all been no stranger to the nightmare known as Five Nights at Freddy's. Once idolized as a small indie game developed by Scott Cawthon and eventually released on Steam due to its popularity, I never quite understood what made this game so good to everybody at first. I was sick and tired of hearing about it with all of the YouTubers milking off of the game and how overused and extravagant the characters and storyline seemed to get later on down the line. But before I conduct a thorough video essay for you guys, firstly I must show you my experience firsthand with Five Nights at Freddy's. So what is Five Nights at Freddy's? Well, if for some reason you haven't heard of this blockbuster by now, Five Nights at Freddy's is a horror game, point and click style, nothing to it. The only movement you have involved with the main character is the camera itself. The plot goes like this. You're a security guard named Mike Schmidt, working the night shift at a pizzeria known as Freddy Fazbear's. The gimmick here is kinda like our real life Chuck E. Cheese. And wow, that makes me feel old. Chuck E. Cheese, if you also don't know, was a famous American restaurant / game center for kids. I've been there a few times in my childhood, and I think I can describe it as a liminality. I always had a weird feeling seeing the mascot dressed up for Chuck E. Cheese, like some strange eerie feeling constantly looming over my head. The environment was also very hyper panic mode with children running and screaming all over, a never-ending colorful slide that acts as a disguise of beauty, fun, and wonder and play, but ultimately has delivered more nightmares to worried kids' lives overall. Needless to say, I know how it feels to be put in a very uncomfortable environment that is intended to be exciting. For me, it was a mixture of sensory overload and some unknown presence hovering close behind me. The first time I saw Five Nights at Freddy's, I felt the exact same way, but amplified 1,000 times over. There were a few Chuck E. Cheeses from what I remember that incorporated animatronic figurines that acted as if the characters were real. First things first, the scariest part about this game is the very idea that you can't run, you can't walk. It's your job. You have to sit in this one spot and make sure that nothing gets to you. There's no 911, there's no outside help. It's you locked in here with them. Them? Who the fuck is them? That's right, the original animatronics from the first game. Nowadays I think there's like 20-something fucking variations for Foxy alone, but the first animatronic I want to talk about is Bonnie. Bonnie is a purple bunny. The animatronic is known to attack you from the west hallway, and it'll often stalk you through the camera feed, inching closer until it eventually shares a bright, grim, horrific smile at the player. Bonnie is an intimidating enemy due to the size of his mouth alone. He looks like he could bite my fucking head off. Nothing sends more chills down my spine than hearing Bonnie's footsteps creep down the west hallway, hoping to attack the player and get what they deserve. Chica was another nightmare added to the table. Just when you think the week will be a breeze, you've already made it past day one and you're feeling astounded, maybe even overconfident. I never thought in my life I'd be scared of a fucking giant yellow chicken until I met Chica. I haven't had a single... Now we're very obviously being hunted by more than one threat, and it's something inhumane, something we've never seen before. It couldn't possibly be explained. That's why there's an east hallway with a large metallic yellow chicken thing that won the hearts of apparently lots of people. Chica started off as a terrifying mechanic before she was turned into... whatever the fuck this is. This is also where you take notice of your power limit. If you use all of the power you have, the building's lights will shut off with a horrific sudden bang, and the room will immediately switch to a deep ocean blue, with mere outlines seeming out of the ordinary. And you can guess what happens from there. The game is most likely over. As the nights go on, you soon discover that there's a third party involved to this equation. Foxy is that handsome fellow hiding behind the curtain in Pirate's Cove. He usually doesn't appear until the third night, but he has been known to sneak out sometimes on the second night. From what I understand about Foxy, he can't move as long as you keep the camera on him. This will stall the timer a bit longer, but not if Chica and Bonnie are close by. Foxy is terrifying. The moment you look away from him, he slowly makes his way further out from behind the curtain. Once he's gone, you have to shut the doors on the west wing, or else you'll get to watch Foxy run directly into the room and murder you. The first time I saw him run, he's a fucking triathlete or something. The idea that an animatronic that's not even being operated or powered in any way chasing after me is truly abhorrent. And last but not least, we have the man of the hour, Freddy Fazbear. Freddy appears throughout the rest of the week, and he can always be heard when he laughs. The only way to keep Freddy from coming inside is to make sure his laugh doesn't get close enough to the door. If he laughs directly in your ear, you're dead. One thing I have to continue to give Scott credit for is the jump scares in this game. I take zero credit for this comment, by the way. He said that the simple, short, high-pitched scream, the intensity of the pitch raising for half a second, and then complete silence. It's the perfect setup to let the player not only re-evaluate his decisions in the game, but to remind them that this is a horror game, and they will be punished for not using their wits and timing better. This was my genuine live reaction when Freddy jump scared me. Okay. We have made it to night 3 of Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm actually very impressed with my performance so far. This is the first time I've legitimately played Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm very surprised that I was able to make it through nights 1 and 2 without a single death. Alright, that's about to change. Can you go the fuck away, please? I think... Okay, let me explain. So what happened there was, I heard his laugh, but my hand wouldn't stop shaking, so I couldn't click the door button. And as soon as I heard that, I went to click the door button, but my hand would not stop shaking. And that's right when I was gonna say, I think he's right there. And he popped up and ate my face. So I really find it hard to believe that anyone is still scared by the more recent games. This first game did such a magnificent job of scaring the shit out of you. I mean, I didn't want to die. When the third Five Nights at Freddy's was announced, I was one of the many people who were excited to see how it would pan out. I watched all the teasers with Springtrap, and I have to admit, I was pretty freaked out at first, but the game itself isn't really all that scary, and this is personally where the series started to dwindle with the scares. It seemed like every new Five Nights at Freddy's version that released was a lot more colorful, a lot more voice involved, and personally I don't think it needed any of that. The whole idea as to why this first game is terrifying is because it was designed to be completely different. The noises in the distance ever so slowly come towards you, the faint ambiance of the animatronic footsteps and the sudden rise of blood pressure when you see the threat. It's a machine that has been possessed by some sort of outside force, and there's no stopping it. It may seem cute and cuddly, but that just makes it worse for us. The only voice in the first game, Phone Guy, or funny enough, the voice of Scott Cawthon himself, calls the player once almost every night. I think on night 5 it's just a glitched phone call that's meant to freak you out. I don't quite remember. He usually says something different each time, but it's never what we want to hear. The man on the phone is a mystery, and it's never revealed who he truly is. All we know is that he is our guidance, but that's not saying much. That's like saying we're gonna go fight a war, but we need Bobby Fischer and gummy worms to defend ourselves. His guidance seems misleading, and the tone of his voice seems nervous. It's insane to me that after all this time, I haven't once thought about if he knew the whole time that the animatronics were evil, and that they were bent on getting revenge on whatever they could, including you. Revenge for what, you may ask? Well, it's been a long time since I've played Five Nights at Freddy's, so bear with me, I'm a little behind on the lore. The last game I ever tried was the 4th one, but I never beat it. From what I can recall, Phone Guy informs you that the animatronics aren't allowed to walk during the day due to an incident only dubbed as the Bite of 87. This has become a huge meme, and if you know who Markiplier is, you probably heard it a lot when we were younger. What was it? Why the fuck do so many people mention it when talking about this game? Well, for starters, Cawthon never fully discussed or confirmed the story behind the Bite of 87. The only thing we know is that the victim was attacked and left without the frontal lobe of their brain. Although they survived, the animatronic responsible wasn't properly determined either. Lots of people speculate that it was Bonnie because she's the first animatronic that moves on your starting night. I personally think Foxy was the aggressor in the Bite of 87. How can you tell? Well, firstly, Foxy's exhibit, Pirate Cove, isn't even open to the public anymore, with a sorry out of order sign posted just outside of his curtain. Upon closer inspection, you can see Foxy in a state of disrepair, almost as if he had been worked on during the day before. Now, this theory has been quote-end-quote proven to be false, since the sequel to Five Nights at Freddy's basically confirmed that it couldn't have been Foxy. He was stuck in the maintenance room of the building with Mangle. There was no way they could have come out during the day without being spotted. Mangle is another possible candidate, as she was a flawed design that got put with the children, and she appeared to be a kid-friendly, take-apart, put-back-together attraction. Lots of fans speculate that this means she got sick of the children changing her appearance constantly, and knowing that she will never be fully complete, she does what she must. Takes a big ol' bite of frontal lobe. There's another theory, that Freddy was the cause. I never noticed this before, but according to Wikipedia, Freddy's face has hand imprints on it. Sure enough, if you look closely, you can see them. This is where people thought that Freddy's victim had maybe grabbed his face in an attempt to get away, or perhaps it was someone who worked on the animatronic. It's really all a bunch of what-ifs and conspiracies, but god, isn't that crazy for a game this simple? Someone on the wiki simply stated, "It's an incredibly terrifying experience to try to save yourself from the single jump scare that ends the game." Five Nights at Freddy's worked so great because it's not like you get some horrifying death scene or something brutally bloody and gory. It's a simple jump scare. I mean, I say simple, but this sound effect in particular has haunted me so many times. I can't explain why I'm so afraid of it, but I don't think I have to. Overall, I think Five Nights at Freddy's has obviously long overstayed its welcome in the gaming community. Security Breach wasn't necessarily a bad game, but I feel like they were just going overboard at this point with the topic of Freddy Fazbear and his animatronic atrocities. The scare factor left these games a long time ago, and unfortunately it's been gutted into some sort of Outlast-like style, no means of defending yourself or interacting with anything other than the environment or picking up documents and keys and shit. It just doesn't feel like Five Nights anymore. Hell, in Security Breach, it's only one fucking night. Why even call it Five Nights at Freddy's if you don't spend 5 fucking nights there? And also, all of the animatronics talk. This wasn't necessarily an unknown thing, as even in the first game, Freddy's laugh can be heard whenever he's snooping around. I don't think the animatronics should be silent, because then there isn't anything to really be afraid of besides their physical appearance. But I feel like they tried to give way too much life and humanity to these things, and for whatever reason, I don't know. To conclude, Five Nights at Freddy's was an excellent and terrorizing game that will always live flawlessly in everyone's library as a throwback to when developers had one simple idea and turned it into gold. I can only hope that someday we will get the Five Nights at Freddy's game that we've been waiting ever so long for, a true sequel that contains everything from the first game. The scares, the uneasy feeling, the objective of just holding out as long as you can, some more secrets, some more lore. Moral of the story, I really liked Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and I think it's iconic to a lot of people, myself included. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this discussion about Five Nights at Freddy's, and stay tuned, because the next game I want to talk about is even more exciting. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to our channel, and thanks for checking out this video. Leave a like, comment, and since we're on the subject, enjoy yourself. Thanks for watching the content, folks.